everybody, Brickhouse here with wow. The Marvels. The Marvels. Went and saw the Marvels last Friday night. And all I gotta say is the movie's a freaking hot mess. It was directed by somebody who wrote fan fiction, and this is worse than fan fiction. I'm not going to go through a whole review like some have already, because my review would be just like everybody else's. But I am going to give you a few thoughts. First of all, they did a little recap with, how Ms. Marvel got her powers with her grandma mailing her a quantum band, or in the comments, it's a nega band. They do a little recap of, I'm going to call her Photon, but they didn't really give her a name. Iona Paris's character. They didn't give her a superhero name. You know, they recapped her getting her powers by going through a magical barrier. If you watched WandaVision, you would know what I'm talking about. If you watched Miss Marvel, which many of you didn't, you would know about the whole grandma mailing the quantum band to Miss Marvel. But the crux of this whole movie, and yes, they did say that you needed to watch Captain Marvel, you need to watch Miss Marvel, you need to watch WandaVision, you need to watch Secret Invasion to watch the Marvels. And no, you really didn't. You could have saved yourself a lot of headaches, a lot of wasted time, because this movie doesn't tie into anything. Not to mention the fact, how many of you remember the movie Spaceballs? I do. The Star Wars spoof, Mel Brooks, where the main plot of the movie was Dark Helmet and his minions were going to steal air from the atmosphere of a planet, Princess Vespa's planet, and take it for their own. Well, guess what you get in the Marvels? Dar-Ben, the Ronin ripoff, steals air from a planet to give that air and replenish the atmosphere of Hela. Not only that, but then she goes to a water planet and steals their water. And then lastly, tries to steal a sun from the Milky Way galaxy. Because all these things tie to Captain Marvel. Because Captain Marvel is the big bad in all this. So needless to say, this movie's a hot mess and really doesn't tie into anything. Now, they did try to give you a couple little nostalgia moments where, Valkyrie shows up to take the Skrull refugees off of Captain Marvel's ship. Now, if she was able to do that, why couldn't she do that in Secret Invasion? For those of you that watch that. Remember, there's 1 million Skrulls on Earth that snuck in under Nick Fury's nose. And yet, he couldn't make a phone call to King Valkyrie to say, hey, can you take in these Skrulls in New Asgard? But yeah, Captain Marvel can do it. Speaking of Nick Fury, he's been... the once mighty super spy has been now relegated to comic relief in hurting cats. Just saying. So let's get into the weekend box office. The Marvel's meltdown. Disney MCU posts lowest box office opening ever at 47 million. Who didn't see this one coming? There was estimates as high as 90 million. This from the Hollywood Reporter. China box office. The Marvels bombs as superhero fatigue deepens. Notice how they didn't say US box office in this headline, this title? But it does say here in the first paragraph, the Marvel's disappointing start at North American box office over the weekend, 47 million, a record low for a Marvel Studios release, is adding to analysts' concerns that superhero fatigue is an urgent and growing problem for major studios. No. Superhero fatigue may be a wee bit part of it. But it's more like the writing's bad. The stories are bad. That's the problem. You make a good superhero movie, people will go see it. But when you make something like The Marvels, no, people aren't going to go see it. The Marvels misfires with 47 million, lowest MCU opening weekend of all time. Now, in the Variety article, it says Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe is no longer a bulletproof box office franchise. That much is clear after the Marvels misfired with 47 million in its opening weekend to land the worst debut in MCU history. Initial tracking was closer to 75 to 80 million, but those projections shrank dramatically in recent weeks to 60 to 65 million, with bad buzz and actors like Brie Larson unable to promote the film. That actually helped people. Them not being able to get out and promote it actually helped this movie. Due to the SAG strike, the Marvels didn't even match those disappointing estimates. Only two other films in the sprawling series, The Marvels is the 33rd installment in 15 years, have opened lower than 60 million. That's The Incredible Hulk in 2008 and 2015's Ant-Man, not adjusted for inflation. Although the MCU has been showing rare signs of wear and tear in its spandex, the franchise's other two big screen adventures opened this year, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, still managed to hit triple digits in their respective debuts. The third Ant-Man wasn't labeled a bust until the end of its box office run. The Marvels is the rare MCU movie to flop out of the gate. I mean, we knew this was coming. I have not been doing this for very long. In fact, I've only been doing this for about, 9 months now. And I could see this was coming. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what was going to happen here with the Marvels. Marvel has gotten away from a couple of things that make it a success. The MCU a success. The first thing was your tentpole characters. Captain America, Thor, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man. The next thing they got away from is telling a good story. Instead of telling a good story, you get this. You get this disjointed mishmash turd. And why do you get something like this? It's because you get people that are writing these things, that are directing these things, that have never read a comic. Granted, I haven't read a comic in quite a long time. I think the last comic I read was it was the Nightfall series. Batman, Nightfall. Up to issue 500 when Bruce Wayne gets the cowl back from Azrael. Now, if you want to really dive into something here, Marvel's receives worst audience score in MCU history. Right now, the audience score is 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, don't let the 62% fool you, folks, from the critics. Because if you look at the top critics, it's actually 43%. In fact, the day, Thursday, November the 9th, when Rotten Tomatoes started posting critics' reviews, this score here was at 54%. And then magically overnight, it became 61, 62. But again, you look at the top critics, 43. All audience is 73%. So yeah, that's pretty bad. Now, last but not least, let's go back in time, shall we, to 2019's Captain Marvel. Opening weekend, Captain Marvel, domestically. Look at this opening weekend, March 8th, 2019, 153 million. That's a huge number. That's a huge number. Now, the Marvels, 47. And granted, the Marvels hasn't had the luck of Captain Marvel, because remember, Captain Marvel was released between two bookends of Marvel phase. The phase 3? Yeah, phase 3. Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. Captain Marvel was shoehorned in between those two movies. That's the reason why it did what it did at the box office. The Marvels didn't have that protection. So, I gotta tell you, I think the MCU might be on its last legs. I mean, there won't be another Marvel movie released, I think, until Deadpool 3, which I do have some hopes for that when it does come out. But it may be a good thing that movie's been pushed back a little bit to get the bad taste of the Marvels out of our mouths. So that's all I have for right now, folks. Just wanted to get on here, express my thoughts, express my opinions. And if you haven't seen the Marvels yet, wait for it to show up on D+. Save your money. If you have seen the Marvels, comment down below. Tell me what you think about it. Did you even like it? While you're at it, please take the time to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video out there with your friends and family, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my content here on YouTube. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you later.